escape. It was a way that as I was going and growing, I was able to channel some of that energy and put it really with some passion. So I played basketball, got a scholarship to Elon, played basketball there. And at that time, it was Elon College turning into Elon University. So I got the opportunity to be a fighting Christian and a Phoenix. Yes. But playing Division I basketball really got me disciplined. It got me understanding that the communication and the things that were going to happen wasn't always going to happen exactly how I wanted it to, and that the loving and support wasn't always going to come as expected, like in that fantasy world that we sometimes want to be in. But it was a development type of thing. At the time of me being at Elon, my coaches were very homophobic. So I was halfway out, yet not out, because I couldn't be out on my basketball team representing Elon and all those stuff. Times have changed. I had some really good support on that campus that really made me evolve into me. There was a moment within that career that my mom had that switch that went off that says, oh my goodness, I'm going to honor my child. And it was like, yay, I'm living now. So when I graduated from Elon, I had the opportunity to go to Wassenberg, Germany and try out for the European League. And all I thought I was going to do was play basketball forever. Hence the fact that I still like to play sometimes and my body tells me about it. But I went to Wassenberg with the desire or not understanding all of the experiences that I was going through on the way. But I had that desire to put myself out there. I'm a great, awesome basketball player. So I went up for a layup and I got undercut. And as I got undercut, the thud through the stadium was just like a calming hush. And what happened then was I turned around and looked at the referee and asked him, how did you call a foul? And in my mind, I know that that's pretty much all I really wanted to know was, why didn't he call a foul? But to the stadium and the people who could possibly offer me my opportunity, what it showed them was she might go against the rules and she might be out there, even though everyone could see it was a foul, but it wasn't called, so it wasn't a foul. They could call me Draymond Green, I guess, because I'm going to be honest about like, hey, that was a foul and I know you know it. But at that moment, I said, okay, great, I'm going to come back. I started my career at Quaintance Weaver. I started as a server because I felt like that was going to be the easiest job to walk away from when Germany called. So I went and I started serving people and I was like, hey, I'm kind of good at this. Just acting and being happy. Well, I'm already happy, so that's not really acting, but just getting people what they need and they're going to give me money. I'm going to go do this. It's going to be easy. And it wasn't as easy as I thought. However, I did have that approachability within me, that willingness to learn and the desire to do more. And I set up the Terrace one day. And there was a organization that was out there who saw me busting my butt. There was a story on like, somebody's got to set up the Terrace and nobody wants to do it. Ivy, okay, fine, I'll do it. But at that time, I was on stage, and I really didn't know that I was on stage, but this is Ivy now, looking back, and Ivy was out there in action. She was serving it up, and there was an organization who said, girl, we know you're busy, but we would really like you to be our operations manager. And I was like, what? Right. I was serving, and my face looked like, oh, okay, don't try to distract me right now, but I'm going to take your card. It seems like a good idea. I had walked up to my leader at that time and I said, gosh, you would not believe what happened today. I'm so glad I actually worked out there on the terrace. And I told her about the opportunity that was presented to me. And I said, I'm so nervous, but I would be crazy not to check out this opportunity. And I landed in a cleaning company where I was the operations manager, didn't read all the fine detail, but did a lot and learned a lot. And I tried my best to stick with it until my morals and my values were being tested. And because I set up that departure with Quaintance Weaver, I was able to get back with Quaintance Weaver because I left the right way. And at that time, they looked at me and said, you've grown up. Let's put you to work. The proximity was open. Like things happen, I guess, for a reason. The proximity was open. I had just left from operations manager at a cleaning company, and they needed help in housekeeping. I started in housekeeping, and in about 9 months, I became the executive housekeeper. I had the opportunity was presented to me in a way of, it's time to put your big girl draws on. I was just like, okay, I'm ready. But things happen sometimes before you're ready, and you either get with it, and that's exactly what I did. It was an opportunity saying, this is what you're going to be. And I was like, okay, great, I'm ready to be it, I guess. But, staying very confident about it. I did that for 6 years. 6 years, I led a staff of 30 plus that maybe 10 spoke English, and the only language I know is English. There was some point that we got to, they were laughing at my jokes appropriately, and it was just like, whoa, did I say something in a different language, or do you care about me that much because I care about you that much? I was within this space, and we got the first 100% A sanitation grade by the health inspector in Guilford County, not because I love to clean up, but because I genuinely knew how to push the buttons of my staff to make sure that they were going to do what was necessary. The hardest day in housekeeping was Sundays, but somehow I still had everybody there on Sundays ready, even though they knew that they were coming to a list full of checkouts. Proximity Hotel was the hotel of weddings. So it was business on the week, but it was a party on the weekend, and it was a lot of stuff to clean up. But those ladies faithfully came, and they came every day. And no one started asking for a raise until it got to the point of, we've been doing this for 3 years. You funny and all. We like you, but can we get some more money? But it was one of those things that I finally got to the understanding of, gosh, just treat people right. Once you treat people right, they will feel amazing. They will shine their true colors. I was able to meet everyone in Greensboro. By the time I ended my career, so I was the executive housekeeper, then I was the director of housekeeping, where I was in charge of both of the housekeeping departments for Acquaintance Weaver. Then I became the guest service coordinator. Now, I did not want to leave housekeeping because that was my baby. I was really living that dream of helping people. I had individuals who, like I said, English wasn't their first language, but they were sending emails, simply because we would have personal conversations where you can't spell sheet, S-H-I-T. They're going to think something different, but you can spell it S-H-E-E-T, and they're going to know exactly what you're, those types of things. But making it a fun learning experience so people don't have to feel like, you idiot. Those things were it was the highlight and the joy of my day. At the end of the day, I could feel like I was truly doing something. Then there were several folks. Come on, we need you fix this department, you fix that department. Come on, we need you over here to do that. And so I became the guest service coordinator at the hotel, where I really started meeting some of everybody and getting that feedback and that encouragement of, you really need to tie this into something, a message that you're able to deliver, because more people need to hear this. More people need to understand that hospitality is just the true entertainment of guests. And if staff don't live here, they're internal guests. So you got to know how to treat your staff. You got to know how to treat your guests. So that way everybody is just living that fantasy world that you are able to create, as long as you have that open and clear communication. So I then left Acquaintance Weaver because I was like, gosh, I got to keep all this passion in the community. And I started working for the Guilford Green Foundation, where I was a community outreach coordinator. I was made in Greensboro with being a community connector and a community builder. My phone rings off the hook, and that's good, because it rings off the hook at Ivy. I got this idea, and I say, you know what? I know, because I'm so involved in this community, that this organization is doing it. Let me pass you and get you connected, simply because I care so much about Greensboro. Because it's home, right? So why not make home amazing? Once I had the enough momentum and support from the community and the encouragement from the organization to start and be me. And I created the Hospitality G. And here I am today, ready to share some tips on how to have a healthy work environment. Okay? So, was that what you wanted to hear about IBG?
Boy, I think we're back even further than that. So that's great.
No.
And then, will there be time at the end for us to
Of course,
okay.
of course. There'll be a lot of time at the end to ask questions. Do you want to check in, or do you want me to go ahead on and get started?
This is your...
Okay, because I told a little bit about me, but I had a special little guest who gave me some good words. So I would love to share a little more of a connection with you all about someone who I have to say is a IBG fan. And I'm going to spread this out for you so I can make sure that you all see it clear, okay?
Cool.
Come on, play because you want to and that you love me. You gotta talk nicely. Even these things here, you gotta make them nice.
A couple of years ago when she was working at the Proximity Hotel, and I was just captivated by her interpersonal relationships. She never met a stranger. I know that she just makes everybody feel at ease, and when we're talking about new programs and new solutions, that she was going to be the right head for that. So I'm also the mayor of Greensboro, North Carolina, and I know Ivy in a private capacity, and she really has the ability to lift me up. You know, there are days where it's hard to be mayor, and very few things to smile about. And, you know, she always reminds me what tomorrow will hold, and she gets me back centered where I need to be. I recommend Ivy as a hospitality consultant because that's really in her wheelhouse. She knows how to bring the best out of everyone, and that's what we want with our employees. We want them to be the face of our business, and I think Ivy knows how to shape that.
So, when we think about shaping and we think about the things that we're able to do and the support system that we need, I felt that it was only important to design and create a slideshow that was going to enhance and allow us to engage into some conversation. And it's called Step Up Your Game. Right? Sometimes we need that little balance, that little friendly reminder on how we as individuals, how we as groups, how we as teams, sometimes even as leaders can do a little bit better, okay? So, may I, number one, take my jacket off? It's a little warm in here. I want to be able to do that, and I appreciate the permission. I am going to go through some expectations. Like I said before, when you have clear expectations, you do what's necessary, right? So interaction is a must. I feed off of your interaction. I love having a good time. I even brought some party favors to have a good time. So every time that I go, that means we're going to talk about stepping up our game, okay? Can we practice that? Yeah? So if I say,
Step up your game?
that's what I want, okay? It's okay. I'm not mad yet. I'm going to do it one more time, though.
Step up your
And
game.
act like you mean it. I love it. Thank you so very much for that. Now, please feel free to stop me at any time and ask questions. It's a must, especially if there's a resource, again, that I said, I've pretty much experienced some of everything. And sometimes when you have that experience, you're able to share from experience, and it makes sense because you've actually experienced it. So please feel free to stop me at any time and ask any questions, okay? Use what you've learned to enhance your work environment, but not only that, use what you've learned to enhance yourself. I think that that's only fair. Please make sure to share my contact information, okay? I'm going to make sure to go ahead on and slide that on up there. I got to plug me, right? And as long as you all are clear and good with the expectations, I'll go ahead and move on. Is that good? Clear?
Yes.
Fantastic. So, again, what is the Hospitality G? I led you all the way up to IBG, and now let's talk about what is the Hospitality G. It's hospitality consulting with access to more than 1,000 hospitality professionals, led by a charismatic, people-focused leader who helps organizations take hospitality to new heights with genuine engagement with every individual and passionate about encouraging them to be their best. This is real, okay? So what we do, we build communities, okay? We create connections. And that is even if you're in the workplace and you actually have a friend who's over here, over there, needs to get that connection because you're all here to serve the same purpose, correct? We do gender spectrum training. Hey, it is what it is, but sometimes people need that friendly reminder in that area as well, all right? I do individual and group coaching for managers and frontline team members. And I also do motivational speaking. That's my passion. That's what I'm excited about, my friends. So I feel like there's enough about me because that's how we started all of this. And it's time to
Step up your game.
Right, because people remember how they were treated. That's something that they don't forget. People remember if they were treated good. People remember if they were treated bad. Sometimes people walk away if they're treated bad. And this is some of the things that we want to make sure that we're amending, especially in the workplace, okay? So let's talk about human versus superhuman. Some people think that I'm superhuman because I walk around with my teeth out all day. It's a choice. I'm happy and I want to be. But mistakes remind us that we're human, right? There are some things that we do, never is intentional, but it kind of reminds us that we're human. And sometimes I don't like the way that feels. You know, it's like riding a bike and just riding a bike for the first time. And you fall off that bike and then you look down at your leg and you say, how dare that scar be there? Wasn't my intention to get on that bike and scar my leg up? So how dare that scar be there? That's no fair, right? Or we have that mindset of, but it was a mistake. But it was a mistake, right? And sometimes those things come with consequences and we have to be prepared to deal with those things. So if we're all human, we know we're going to make mistakes. Got to figure out how we're going to deal with them because we're not superhuman. Even though we like to think we're tough and we can do anything, right? So, that ego. Yeah, that's that part that reminds us again, we're not that superhero that we thought we were. Ego comes in as a person's sense of self-esteem, right? Right? So if somebody's self-esteem is being tested, that means that there's a little bit of distraction. There's a little bit of uncomfortable. There's something that's going on, and that's how they that feel that self-importance that's so necessary as human beings, right? So if the ego is a person's sense of self-esteem and self-importance, what happens when you are in that perfect world? Right? That La La Land that I was talking about before, the one that everybody in Greensboro thinks I live in because I walk around with my teeth out all the time, is something about how we want it, right? And we try to use that analogy where I'm from is, in this perfect world, how we want things, it's always going to work in our favor, right? Yeah? Yeah? Do we live in a perfect world? Do we call that possibly a fantasy? Huh? Yeah? And we get kind of giddy about it, especially when we try to wake ourselves up or feel like if Ashton is back there because it's going too right. Right? It's like, this is crazy because it's going too right. Then we pop back down into that real world. And we understand that in that real world that there's what is. Right? And sometimes what is just that. It is, and we have no way of changing it. So what do we do with what is? It's a reality check, right? Like, what? I'm not in that fantasy world anymore. I am not a superhuman. I'm actually human. Reality check. It's the truth. It's the truth of how you see it, how you feel it, how you view it. But it is what is, right? So when you think about the fact that it's human versus superhuman and that ego, the Fantasy world versus the real world, you think about
Step up your game.
oh yeah, and let's step it up in the workplace, right? So when you think about stepping up your game, you're stepping up your game in the workplace, because the workplace, it's not fantasy world, it's real world. And what is the rules that they have in that workspace, right? So as a follower, we have to think about our body language, what we're wearing with us. That's the first impression that people get of us. Are we carrying ourselves in that manner that's matching exactly how we were expected to act? Some days are easier than others, because we live in that real world, right? When things are tapping on your patience, how it's hard to shake it and how to get into body language, but it's one of the things that are so important as a follower, right? So when you're thinking about how am I maneuvering and how am I getting this, let's make sure that we are actually saying, do I have that right body language? Do I have what's necessary as a follower in this organization? Because I already know what was expected of me. I signed on the dotted line where I said I wanted to be hired, right? They didn't come recruit me, and well, some people do come recruit you, but they still recruit you with expectations. So the body language has to match it. Not only that, you have to give that body language that's approachable, right? You have to make sure that you're not only approachable to the outside guests, but you're approachable to your internal guests. You know, you have to make sure that you are opening up that door, being that welcome mat, saying, come right on in, approach me. Body language is going to be key with that, because you want to make sure that you're asking for them to approach you in the right way. So the body language has to come across appropriately for approachability, correct? You agree with me?
Yes.
Awesome. How about that eye contact? And in a way that you can look at somebody and they can kind of sense and feel because of how the eye contact may be squinting, or all of you know what I'm saying. And sometimes as a follower, we have to take into consideration that sometimes, just sometimes, that eye contact, even though we didn't mean it. I joke around with some of the people that I coach now, and I told this young lady, I said, you know what, I have no reason to take it personal anymore. And she was like, what do you mean? I said, you roll your eyes at everybody. I thought that you just rolled your eyes at me, but it's consistent. So I'm going to go along with the fact that maybe you can't help it. But I would like you to start talking to your team about the fact that you roll your eyes and you can't help it, so they don't take it personal. Right. Because they have to be able to understand you so they can work with you. But at first I thought it was me, and I got a little offended behind it, but it's consistent. So that smile, again, like I said, teeth out. Sometimes people come and they have all of this, you know, that blank face. And again, approachability is with a smile. You can smile with your eyes because you're attentive and you're making sure that you're making that direct eye contact. But sometimes we need that little friendly reminder that's going to tap you. And I don't know exactly how it's going to come across, but sometimes when it comes down to smile, that's creating your next opportunity. That's creating delight in someone's day. And that's something that's actually required in your toolkit for success. That's like easy. Just slap it on. It's free. The easiest thing to do with your mouth, and I call it teeth out. Because it's so important to make sure that sometimes even in the industry that we're in, it's not something to smile about. But that's when we call faking it till we make it. You put them teeth right on out and you smile and you have a good day, because that's what you signed up to do. So if that's what you signed up to do, smile about it. All right? Make sure that you have the tone and authenticity that matches it. Okay? Tone is a mood breaker. Tone can sometimes make people feel like they have to defend themselves. And sometimes it's hard to be mindful of tone, especially when you're in the real world. Especially when you have all these things that's weighing on you because you're dealing with people and everyone's different. However, you have to find your balance, because this is what we've chosen to do, right? We choose to be a genuine service, so you better make sure that your tone and your authenticity matches it. The moment that you feel yourself having to say, I got to go do this again, it ain't for you, and it's okay. You didn't hear me say you're a bad person, but what you heard me say is that now you don't want to be a genuine service. So your tone's not going to match. Your smile's not going to be there. No eye contact. There's not going to be the approachability, and your body language is not going to show it. So you got to make sure that you're following these steps, feeling this energy, and making sure that you're knowledgeable about the things that you're supposed to know. Okay? As a follower, Be knowledgeable about the expectations that are being set. Be knowledgeable, and if that's for one instance that you think it could mean something else, ask questions. Ask questions. Communication is key. But making sure that before you go out there and you play, you know what's expected of you, because the moment that you get that feedback that you don't agree with, because you don't have the knowledge that's necessary, it changes your tone, it changes your smile, you want to start rolling your eyes. You know what I'm talking about. The approachability, you just all turned off like, ugh, leave me alone. Your body language even sees it, because now you're feeling some type of way that's going against your self-esteem, right? Something that's knocking on that ego. So now you got to figure out, how am I going to shake that off and realize that it's just facts. It's data. It's something that's going to help you do better if you're able to digest it and understand it that way. The last thing is, one other thing is ownership. Now, ownership is owning your role, owning what you know that you're supposed to do, and owning it sometimes when things don't go exactly how you need it to go. From that story that I talked about just a little bit, I'm going to take a little sidetrack. But when we talk about that ownership thing, when I turned around and I asked that referee, why didn't you call a foul? Guess whose fault it was that I wasn't playing basketball? Come on, interact. Guess whose fault it was that I...
Yours.
Guess whose fault I thought it was that I wasn't playing basketball?
The referee, right?
Yeah.
Or the player.
Yeah, it was that referee. Yeah. For a very, 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 very long time, I felt like if that referee would have just called that foul, then I never would have said anything, and I would have never got ejected out of my dreams, right? Mm-hmm. So, for a long time, I didn't want to own it. It was hard. It was icky. Who likes to say, hey, I'm not living my dream and it's my fault? I don't know too many people who like to do that. But I do know for a very long time, until I was able to digest and understand that I can only own my behavior and my behavior displayed, and all I simply asked was, why didn't you call a foul? But if I'm all the way down here and you're a million miles away, and sometimes that's what it is. People are a million miles away, but they have to look at what you are doing and try to base that and judge that off of feedback, right? So ownership. Ownership is key. I started owning it and I found a new dream. And here I am, right? So appreciation. Appreciation is key. Being grateful, being thankful for every opportunity, every time that you're able to interact. Every time that you get something, you have to be thankful for it. Even if it's something that you don't want to receive, it's always polite and always nice, especially in that followership position, to be thankful for it. That didn't say you just have to accept it, that you have to digest it, that you have to say, okay, thank you so very much for telling me I'm crap. No, it's just saying thank you so much for that feedback, because that's thanking somebody for their opinion or option or the data that they're giving you. And it's okay. Sometimes it's not what we want to hear, but you gotta be grateful, right? So, as a leader, I like to use these kind of things, and again, it's about the same exact thing as a follower, but as a leader does that body language, I use it as a field style leadership. When I say field style leadership, that means, is the fairness there? Is the expectations clear? Am I that example of the expectations? So therefore I can create loyalty within my industry, right? So if my body language is off, but then I'm going to get feedback about body language, is it going to be received? You know what I'm saying? So it just makes sense for body language. If we are expecting, then we have to make sure that we are giving. Right? Because people tend to follow what they can see. They tend to mimic. They seem to get engaged and involved because they say, gosh, if they're doing it, I want to do it too. If you're approachable, your staff will approach you. They will come to you. You're able to give some solutions. You're able to even hear what they have to say. But if you never hear anything from your staff, it could be that friendly reminder saying, hey, check your approachability. Make sure you're presenting yourself. There are some organizations and some people who speed walk through because they want to seem like they're so busy that you can't get any of their time, but never realizing that if I don't just take the moment to slow down, just to do that check-in, to make sure that these things are being met, so there's an individual who understands and feels valued and appreciated as a leader, that these are things that are necessary to have a healthy work environment. The eye contact. I could go on and on and on about what this looks like, but sometimes people get that eye like because I said so and not really understanding that that's exactly what they're projecting. You might not say because I said so, but if that eye contact comes across like, we know what because I said so looks like, right? So we know when you're looking at me and you're handling me like because I said so. So sometimes that means that now there's a little bit of a adjustment. You know, there's a little bit of unease. There's something that needs to be taken on. However, I could see a leader then having that kind of discrepancy because there are some things as a leader that you just expect people to just, come on, get it. But then I think, well, if they could just come on and get it, wouldn't be a reason for a leader now, would it? So we got to make sure that we have that balance and that understanding of what's necessary, how we present ourselves, how we come across. Are we smiling? Even when it's bad, are we smiling? Sometimes it just takes that. And then you might have to smile and grit your teeth just a little bit and go to the back room, and then you have to let it all out, but you better come back in front of your team with that smile, especially if that's what you're expecting out of your team. It's so necessary. Also, easier said than done. So when it doesn't happen, make sure that you show that ownership. To circle back around, tone and authenticity. Tone is so key, especially when you are the leader. Let's take a sidetrack just really quick because there are some things that should be kind of understood. As a leader outside, and when I say outside, I mean a leader who may be a leader in your community. You may be a leader at your church. You may be a leader in your household because you are a parent, right? But then you have to figure out now, how am I going to get back into this narrow lane of my responsibility and my job, my actual role that I signed up for. And if you're an outside leader trying to come into an inside role as a follower, just work it out. Because it's going to be hard and you're going to need that energy, but you're going to have to know your place. You're going to have to know your role. However, I get and understand when you feel like a leader is now talking to you as if you were talking to your kids. So we will get into that a little bit and talking about how to set up some feedback loops. But I wanted to make sure that you all are able to have that outside understanding as a leader and then having to get into your lane as a follower, okay? Now, knowledge. Knowledge is key. Sometimes as leaders, we fall into that because I said so. Because it's just the way. And it's the way because I said so. Or because I make the rules. And sometimes that tone comes across that way. Sometimes the authenticity, the knowledge and everything, it just falls out of the door because sometimes as a leader, we feel that, well, I'm in charge. Right? And sometimes that's a tap on the ego. But if there were a way to set up that understanding that followership and leadership, if you're leading me correctly, I'm going to follow you correctly. And if there's not going to be the appropriate leadership, if it's not going to be the right knowledge because now you're giving me facts and data, you're more going into your feelings, I'm pretty much going to like maybe turn that volume all the way down. Like I would probably start hearing like Charlie Brown's wah, 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 because now you've completely blown me away because now it's more than just a factual thing, right? So ownership, it is hard. It is hard. It is hard. As I've said before, I've played several roles, and as a leader, it is hard to show ownership. It is. It is. Sometimes it may take a day. Sometimes it may take, wow. I don't know, but I do know that it is so important to be clean on your team and on your staff. And showing ownership shows that you are a human being. Remember when we had that human being versus superpower? If you can't ever own something, especially when it's a behavior and you're looking at your staff member and you can see that they are not performing at their best and you are not taking ownership as a leader, there's something wrong. There's a little bit of a disconnect there. Because if you have people to follow you and you want them to do your best, if they're not doing their best, gotta look in the mirror. Appreciation, being grateful and being thankful is so key from a leader to a follower. Every time that there's information that's being given, as I told you, I was in housekeeping. Housekeeping with 30 plus staff members, only 10 that spoke English, and everyone was older than me, they were. And it was a bunch of, when I first started, I was like, I did not sign up to babysit. I did not. These are grown people. Why are they acting like this? I had a mentor. I wasn't talking to them. I had a mentor who I was sharing this information with, but it was very hard until I learned to say to that individual who came to me with a problem, thank you so much for sharing that information with me. Now, if you would give me the moment to do something about it, I would gratefully appreciate that. But because I am that person, I would say, and I would love for you to come back to tell me that if this doesn't happen, that you would let me know so I can circle back around, because it's only fair that you feel valued, appreciated, and understood. So, it's a lot when it comes down to just being you and figuring out what's going to make it flow as an individual, especially in the workplace. All right? So how do we do that, Ivy? How do we do it?
Step up your game.
You behave how you want to be treated. Right? I think that's only fair. It's key. Especially in the workplace, you behave how you want to be treated. You don't smile, people may treat you a different way. If your body language isn't matching your approachability, people may treat you a different way. But it's only fair to own it and then do something about it, right? So let's reevaluate. Let's do a little reevaluation. That ego. Who likes being wrong?
Nobody. Not me, anyways.
Golly. Who likes being wrong?
No one.
Right. I got that. So when you have to hear that you're not doing something right, or that you need to do it differently, it's a tap on the ego, right? Not only is it a tap on your ego, but it's a tap on your patience, right? Because, now you're I'm uncomfortable now. You've told me, as my ego, my self-esteem, you've completely deflated me. So now my patience is being tested. So therefore, I'm gauging that level of anger, right? And that level of anger that comes about an individual when they've been handled wrong. But you can only control your behavior. So what are you going to do? When it comes down to that level of anger that has put you in a position that you are going to possibly show up in a way that's not expected or not appreciated, right? We got to know our balance. We got to know that level of anger and what's going to get us there. What's going to cause us to open up our mind, to understand that we have to be open-minded, especially when we're dealing with individuals who are here to serve the same purpose, but are different individuals, right? So we have to have that open mind when we're facing these things, right? We have to have the willingness to learn. That's a leader and a follower. If a follower has some information that could go up to a leader, we have to have that willingness and that desire to learn, to understand. We have to, and vice versa. It should go up, down, left, right. It should always have that open mind, that willingness to learn, and it should always show ownership. We should take advantage of it. We should own it. We should wear it. We should embrace it, right? Because it just makes sense. Then to show that appreciation. Be grateful for it, right? We have to thank you for anyone willing to make sure that they are have enough courage to share feedback. We used to call it the breakfast of champions, right? We just eat it up, that feedback tastes bad. You better eat it up, because it's like feedback is being given. Feedback is information about reactions to a product, a person's performance of a task, etc., right? But it's supposed to be used as a basis for improvement. So if the feedback does not come across as a basis for improvement, how do we communicate that, right? How is that going to happen if that individual doesn't skip away? How is that going to happen if you are that individual and someone is just saying, hey, this is what you did, and this is how you need to improve on? Would you really feel like you really needed to improve on it? Because tone, body language, eye contact, all of those things are so important that it just helps you grow. It helps you feel like I can actually be understood here, right? So feedback. We use this little term, or we had this opportunity, like I said, when we had this fantasy land in this the real world, that feedback could look like this. And we're all in a industry where we feel like some days we're at war, right? It's safe to say that. I mean, any day you walk out the door, it's kind of safe to say like you just don't know what you're going to expect. So when we talk about this feedback thing, we talk about how we're at war, right? And we talk about this fantasy world at war, where people are shooting and you expect someone to be able to come to you and say, hey, they're shooting, and I would really like if you just tuck and you all, like, how can I be that nice at war? Right? Well, we expect it. Right? Because we're humans and we just know that we remember how we were treated. And if we weren't treated right, I'm going to remember that. I'm going to know that. And if I'm treated good, I'm going to come back and I'm going to engage in it, right? So we're at war and now we're in reality world, right? And because I care about you so much, but I don't quite tell you so because of my tone, my body language, I may then push you and say move. Because we're at war. They were shooting. But how did we remember? Because I pushed you, that was the reason that I saved your life, but I pushed you and that was something that you didn't like. Right? Do we find that being sometimes the obstacle when we're at work sometimes? That sometimes we're not realizing that we're at war and now we're getting pushed in a way that made us uncomfortable. And we're never remembering that we got pushed out of the way of the fact that they're shooting. Right? Because I know me, and I know the type of individual that I am. I come back to, sorry, I didn't do it. Come on.
Step up your game.
All right. I know that positive energy attracts positive actions, my friends. So when I say that and I talk about being at war and getting that feedback, we talk about feedback loops and the tone and how it's set up, right? So we talk about how positive energy, right? Positive energy will enhance and amplify change. It will just make you feel real good, right? Sometimes does that give you the stability that's necessary though? Sometimes it's just, if everything is floating and everything is really, really good and everything is happy, what about when it's time to give you some corrective action, right? So there's a time and a place and a way that you're supposed to give it. And sometimes when it comes across negative and you're expecting that enhance and change, it dampens and it buffers change. So it's about making sure that you use your positive when you need that enhance and amplify change, and that negative when you need to really buffer, like, whoa, I hate to be the rainer on your party, but we don't act like that here. It's only fair, but you got to know when to use it. You got to know how to use it. And you have to make sure that when you don't do it right, guess what? You're going to have to own it, right? It only makes sense. You got to own it. And then you set it up in a way of, because I'm a human being, and because we're here to serve the same purpose, when this happens again, how would you like me to handle you? That's a good leader. Now, as a follower, because now we're not at war, and it was the next day, and I've come back to work and I've slept on it. you know what? You saved my life, and I do appreciate you saving my life, but it seems like we're going to be at war again today. And instead of pushing me, could you just give me the kind of yell that's necessary to get me over the edge? Because yesterday, I was a little bruised from the pushing, and I didn't like it, and I had to work my shift bruised. And I don't want to do that today. But do you see how we didn't start fighting on the battleground? We didn't start fighting there. And that wasn't even a fight. This is just clear, clean communication. Because you get a user's manual on how to put together a table. It says part A connects with part B, part C connects with, and so forth and so on. People have those too. But you see people and you say, I know how to handle people, so they're going to use this manual. I don't need that. Until you're able to realize, actually you do. And let's make sure that we have a healthy way of setting up how I need to be communicated so I can be effective in your organization. And how am I needing to lead you in that manner if I'm not already leading you towards success? Because I know that that's what I'm supposed to be here for, right? So, I'm a strong believer that as we reflect on this moment, that when you're building your leaders and you're building your staff simultaneously, it elevates the success of your organization no matter what business you're in. Okay? And that's just genuine. That is just real. That is just energy that pushes out because you're showing that you care. I know for a fact, like I said, that I had these housekeepers, and we would have days where we would, and y'all know you've been in Greensboro long enough to know that at proximity, we could have a tour and travel group come in the morning and figure out some type of way to tell these ladies who I only speak English, but English may not be their first language, that I know you just cleaned this room, but I got another guest coming and I'm going to need you to clean this room again. Double time. Oh, no, not overtime. This is your responsibility because we're still in these 8 hours. Come on, that's a lot when English is not your first language. However, what they would see me do is I would come in with my jacket because I had to be in a suit. I was in that environment. But I would come to them and I would show them how I need your sense of urgency to be through the roof. I got a guest downstairs in the lobby. Let me tell you what I'm going to do. Bam, take that jacket off. I'm going to clean the living room. You clean the bathroom. Let's do this together so we can wow these guests. That's me. I can tell you with me doing that, it got all them ladies to do what was necessary because I wasn't afraid to get dirty. I wasn't afraid to show them that if I'm asking you to do it, I can do it too. Why not? It just makes sense. It makes it a healthy work environment. Now, there was this one time that this guest called at 4:50 p.m. during the week and said, oh, this morning before I left, I knew my watch was on the counter. And as I was cleaning off the counter, I watched myself push my watch into the trash can. Oh, you did all that and you want to call us at 4:50? Really? Why? Because you know trash has been emptied. You know that the housekeepers have gone for the day. But because of the organization that I was working for and how we wow guests and how we do things, my general manager was outside and he was in the dumpster. So you know what? He said, Ivy, come on, I need you to get in the dumpster with me. And I said, I kind of don't want to do that. I really don't. I really don't. And I just want to be honest with you. However, as I'm being honest with you, if I'm going to lose my job, can I just run in real quick and get a housekeeping uniform and then I'll be more than happy to jump into that because I'm in a suit. Now, number one, because I'm not on Front Street, but I live my life different than you. That was a lot of money and I'm not getting into the dumpster in that without being able to take it to the dry cleaner, okay? That was in my mind, but that wasn't for him to know. All I knew was if I'm going to lose my job, then I'm going to need to jump into this dumpster. He said, nah, G, you're not going to lose your job. Calm down. You don't have to get in the dumpster. Will you send me this individual from inside and tell him to meet me out here and tell him I need him to help me get in the dumpster? I said, golly, man. He's like, what is wrong with you? I'm not going to make you get in the dumpster. I said, I know, but you just asked me to go ask somebody else to do something that I told you that I wouldn't do. Can I please just send him out here to you and maybe you can ask him? Because I guarantee you that it's going to be very respectful and it's not going to lose any of my credibility by asking him to do something that he's not seeing that I'm not going to do. But you cool. You in there already. I'm just going to send him out and say, hey, can you go meet me in the dumpster? Right? And it just worked. It just worked. Yeah, that's how long I was at Quaintance Weaver. Yeah, that was back when Nina was my general manager. But it was one of those things. And it was genuinely simply because I take people serious. And that was the fact of the matter that came to that moment of, if I can't do it, what I look like asking somebody else to do it. People do it. And sometimes you have to fake. Now, there were several times where I had to come and give feedback to those ladies, and no, I could not. And I still could not do 12 rooms in a day and make sure that they were spectacular, doing what was necessary. But the fact of the matter was, if I needed to help them, I would take my jacket off and help them. So I was showing them that, hey, I can't do it quite like you, but I got the concept and I got the understanding, and I'm going to be right here as your biggest cheerleader because you got it. So let me cheer you on and make sure that you get these rooms taken care of. And it's all about maneuvering and making sure that people feel good while doing it. Okay? So, any questions?
Are we gonna, because a lot of the people in the room are in retail, and we also get a lot of feedback about our businesses that try and look first. They're in retail or restaurant service. Could we discuss a little bit about the customer is always right?
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
I know you're kind of...
No, I know. I came from an environment where that happened. And again, like I told you, I had individuals who didn't even speak English. Okay, but we're in a hotel setting where there was a guest who felt like something was taken. Well, I know that the housekeeper said, whoa, let's sit down, let's talk about this. And if you would just give me one moment, or actually already approaching it with, I am so sorry that you are experiencing this. That's not me saying I'm sorry that I did something. That's not saying sorry that you did something or that you're wrong. It's me being in the moment with you of saying, I am so sorry that you're experiencing this. And if you give me the moment, I'm going to get down to the bottom of it. Okay? So now I'm in behind closed doors because now someone else went to the housekeepers. They're in tears. Ivy, I didn't take anything. I know you didn't. I trust that you didn't. And because I trust that you didn't, I know that you wouldn't have a problem because of the industry that we're in and how we're doing things. Just showing me. Oh, Ivy, I'll show you anything. Bam, show me. Nothing in the pockets, nothing anywhere. I have had the opportunity now because I did the research engineering. I need you to go do a lock verification. Read this. Tell me who's been in this room. Okay? No one had even entered the room besides the guests. They had just misplaced it. I had staff in tears who felt like at that moment, because someone else approached them, that they didn't believe in what was going on. And there are ways to break it down to make sure that you never give the feedback to the staff in front of the guests to make them, to solidify the fact that they're right and you're wrong. But being able to step around that corner, that desk, making sure that you're able to walk that guest into somewhere that they're now being heard, but it's outside of the view of everybody else. You can really agree with that guest. Make them feel really good. Offer something to take care of. Then you go back to that team member and you let that team member know, this is how the guest was feeling. What's your opinion on it? How did you approach it? What did you have happen? Where do you think that anything could have gone wrong? You know, I spent some time at 1618. I'm a 1618 fan, but I spend time at 1618, and we have guests that come in there, and sometimes some of the things that's even said, like, I don't like this. Well, what don't you like about it? That could make somebody feel like, am I wrong? Instead of saying, oh, well, it seems like you may be looking for these types of flavors or this types of things. It's just about verbiage. Sometimes when people are upset, irate, they just want to be heard. The more that you know about things when you talk about retail, I was over at Journeys, and I was at Journeys because I was looking for some Chuck Taylors, okay? And I was in a friend's wedding, so I had to have electric purple Chuck Taylors, okay? And I went into the Journeys. The young lady was so pleasant. That's why I shared this story. She was, hi, what can I get for you? I'm like, look for Chuck Taylor. She's like, they're on the wall right there. I'm like, guess what? That is the one color that I know we don't have. However, I think that, I can't even remember the name of the store. She was that good. Over there, she was not even worried about the fact that it wasn't even a Journeys or anything affiliated with Journeys. you could go around the corner to this store, or you could order online. I knew I needed them. I started skipping. I was like, oh, I could get them today. You know what? She was so knowledgeable. She was so nice. I'm going to keep my money with these people, and I'm going to order these shoes online. So making sure that you have that type of conversation, that communication, the way that you're able to finagle some things. When you're able to read a guest's body language. You know, sometimes people wait for them to say this isn't right. I see that you're not touching that. Is everything okay? Gosh, well, let me see if I can do something a little bit better about making sure that I get that for you. You know, making sure that you go the extra mile and to do the preventive maintenance so you're not reacting to a disaster and having to feel like you're on disaster one now. Let me go clean this mess up. But you're being proactive and you're setting yourself up. Making sure that you have your staff feel empowered. Making your staff feel empowered to make exceptions, but then being able to document why they are able to make these exceptions and then rewarding if it's the right thing. Or being able to communicate to say, hey, you did great, but next time let's make sure that we do this. Don't get a house away. You know, those types of things. But it's just about making sure that you set up those expectations with your team. Never have your front line take care of guest issues. Leadership has been designed to do that. It should be their responsibility. I don't care where it is. There are some things that you can do and say, like I said, from the front line, I am so sorry that you're experiencing that. Let me get my manager so we can get you taken care of. Should be the first thing that always comes out. And the manager should not feel like, well, why didn't you handle it? The manager should go out there and that manager should wow them because 9 times out of 10, that's why you're there. It's only fair.
Do y'all have any examples of situations you've had that with customers that you want to see? Like,
Yeah.
what would a great way to resolve it have been? I don't know if anything comes to mind. But we hear about things all the time. Barry has dealt with so much in the restaurant industry, and then we want our businesses to be able to solve these kind of problems, and sometimes they don't. A lot of people don't have that much training.
Well, when they're able to put themselves into that position to understand, how would I want to be handled if this happened to me? Certain things like, it's hard for me to actually go out to eat in areas because of the environment that I was in. I was spoiled. I was a Quaint Sweeper kid. I'm sorry, I was. And I was there for almost 11 years. So being there for almost 11 years had me in that desire of, okay, 45 seconds to greet. Everybody should have 45 seconds to greet. And if you're not in that mindset of the time that door opens, ding, because everybody's door dings, you can hear that the door is open, that everybody is not hearing action, and it's time to wow. And it's time to put on like your Sunday's best smile. Like you are ready to invite and engage and welcome people in. Having that in the mindset, in the expectations, the training process, some of the things that when you think, okay, great, someone has signed up to be of genuine service, they just must already have it. But making sure that you spell out those expectations of things that you need to have happen. But not only that, being that leader that's going to put themselves in the position to observe so you can make sure you reward when you're doing exactly what I've told you to do. Sometimes I know because I've been that person, because I've had to do both. I've been the follower and the leader, and I've been the follower that's been that follower who's been doing great things, but nobody caught me do this great thing today. Like, golly, I'm not going to do no more great things. I'm not going to do great things tomorrow because nobody rewarded me today. So it's about having that balance and making sure that everyone understands that praise ratio versus the feedback, and everybody can't always hear what they're doing wrong, but they got to hear sometimes what they're doing right. And that's from the follower standpoint. As a leader, you're beyond that. You're not going to get that stroke to the ego of, ha, ha, you did a good job leading today. Because you're the leader. You have to be the one that's giving the high fives out and being okay with that. What do you have, friend? You got something? Maybe? No?
I feel like it's just like hard to like, sometimes we have customers who don't really understand how our store works. And so like explaining to customers like why we can't do certain things for them, like in a positive way, has been something that we all kind of like have had to learn.
Right.
It's just kind of complicated. So.
Right. Well, making sure that you have those. So maybe having a solution-oriented type of training. So when you have to deliver bad news, what can I sandwich it with? If I can't do this, what can I do so I can make sure that I'm able to offer something, the next best thing that I can do? And that's okay. I think that you grow. You know, if it's something that you are saying, hey, I found this to be a solution, but it really hasn't changed the guest's mind about it because they kind of wanted what they wanted. Are there days that possible sales happen? Are there days that you could, or ways that you could get them signed up in some type of network so when those sales are going on, you're able to shoot them a message and say, hey, I know that you were looking for this and hey, it's actually on sale now, so come on in and get it. Are some types of ideas and ways to look at those types of situations when, you know, that fantasy land that people walk into, what they want, right? And when you have that reality of what is, you have to figure out what is going to be the best solution that's going to get people to come back. And I'm almost certain, like I said, because there are some pieces that I'm trying to remember. Are there some pieces that sometimes the tags may fall off of, and then sometimes you guys don't know exactly what the price is?
Oh yeah.
So I've had that happen to me before, not because I was as persistent as I was. I came back to make sure, but making sure that you set up some type of communication, meaning, yeah, hey, let me get your information so I can follow up with you and how we can get this back to you. Because I know I almost assume that manager has to make that call or owner.
The managers can do it. Sometimes even our staff, like we can just call whoever, like if the booth, we can like identify the vendor.
Mm-hmm.
Usually we'll just like text them a picture of it or call them and then contact the customer.
Do you guys have social media?
We do, yeah.
Do you all explain on social media how your store works besides what you sell?
Not really.
Because that might be, because you know how Instagram does, you can drop down into your Instagram stories and you can say, how our store works, click here. And you can just do a full video on how our store works.
Really, we're thinking that.
Yeah, how our store works and how people can then figure out more about you. I've learned that it's not about what you sell, it's about the people that's in your business. And the more that they know about who's in their business, the more they feel comfortable coming and asking you questions. And then they kind of understand when you can't make them happy, they realize that, gosh, maybe I am being extra. I don't know. But I definitely suggest that if that's a confusing part of the business, that people don't know how to work, the store works, tell them how it works. But I know that every time someone says, is this your first time being here? Well, let me tell you what you can't do. Like, you don't want to do that. You know, and I know that sometimes comes across in that way, but you got to make sure that you figure out if I'm not delivering my message appropriately and people are confused, how can I get that out there so they kind of understand my store?
Can you, I mean, you may not have this at the tip of your tongue because you're so positive about it, but can you think of an anecdotal or a situation in your past where you've had a customer or a client that really was just too difficult and demanding that you knew you weren't going to satisfy them, and how you handled that?
Yeah. That's when you stay factual about things. That's when you put yourself, so we had a guest that would come to the hotel, and we had this chain of guest notes behind it, and I'm talking about pages of guest notes about this guest. And that was kind of why I have to take the feeling that I was brought to the front desk, because I have that way of communicating exactly what needs to be done. I have two stories about it. One was a guest who we knew that they complained about hearing things like tools dropping, and we made sure that we just didn't place anybody on top of it, you know, and had complaints about the food being bad. So we just, you know, it was just ways that we were able to set things up because of the communication that we got it there. And then she finally was just like, well, I'm not, and I was like, well, what are you not? What's not going on? Please tell me, because I know that you got this and you asked for it. I know that you got this and you asked for it. Unfortunately, there's not going to be too much more that I can do for you, but I truly want you to experience this. I want you to feel good about this. but take a little bit of ownership in the fact that that we tried, and because I was that authentic and that true, she was just like, you're right, you didn't do all of those things, There was a time during A&T homecoming at the front desk, and sometimes when you swipe a card and it's declined, you sometimes take that weight off and you tell the guest, go ahead on upstairs, call your bank, come back down and provide us the proper method of payment. And what happened was the card had kept declining, and my service manager called the guest and said, ma'am, you need to provide us with another form of payment. And all she heard was, you can't afford this place and you gotta go. I don't know why she heard that, but that's what she heard. So the service manager came and got me and said, Ivy, I really feel like I've let a guest down, and she's told me that she's on the way downstairs right now. So can you kind of stand right here beside me? That's exactly what I was like, yeah, I can. And as soon as that guest came like a bat out of, straight to that front desk and dropped her shoes like I'm ready to fight, my body language went directly over here. It did. I stepped back and the lady was talking to her to the point that I finally had to ask her, because at this time I could judge that this guest was just upset with us. Not so much us, but her. So I let her have that, and I explained it to her after the fact, but I then stopped and said, ma'am, can I just ask you to just come over here, have a seat with me really quick? And I sat down with her, and I asked her, I said, ma'am, where are you joining us from today? And she said, DC. Why? And I was like, I just want to know where you're coming from. So what vehicle did you drive? A Tahoe? Or did you fill up before you left? Because I know that takes a lot of gas. She said, well, yeah. I was like, well, then for your protection, would you just possibly call your bank? Because if you were in DC this morning spending all of this money, and now you're in North Carolina right now spending, why did she say that to me? I don't know why she did not say that to you, but right now what I need you to do is calm right on down, because I'm going to need to work here after you leave. Okay? And what we're doing right now is I'm making sure that you understand that I understand where you're coming from. Do you want some tea? Do you want some water? All I need you to do is just call your bank and let them know that now you're in North Carolina and you're not in Washington anymore. Now, she was wrong. I was wrong. I looked like a traitor to my team because I had to walk away. I stopped and let her get cussed out. I did because there was no sense in both of us getting cussed out, because then who was going to fix it? Mm-hmm. So, like I said, it's going to be that time where she felt like she was entitled. She felt like she was right. My team was here. I had to leave them, and then I had to go calm down the situation, and then I had to come back around to her, and I said, hey, listen, so it was your tone, it was your body language, the way that you were coming at that lady, it made, and why am I going to give you feedback in front of her and ask you, why are you talking to her like that? Why are you like, I can't do that. But what I did do is I fixed this situation, and now I'm coming to let you know how I observed this conversation go wrong. And it was your fault, boo. It was. But let's fix it. So the next time that somebody else comes from out of town, let me tell you what I told her. I asked her the following questions, and then she felt good about it and understood it was for her protection and not anything against our bias of if she could afford it or not. She took it. She took it. Y'all have any other questions or anything at all? Well, I have to say thank you so very much. I appreciate the opportunity to engage and to share this information. My information is here. I have it. I do some fun team building things with a couple of different organizations in town. Like when you think about blind drawing. You have a department and you put them on blind drawing and you tell them, I need you to draw this, draw that, draw this, draw that. Then you take off the blindfold and you're talking one way and you see two different pictures. Jeez. Talk about communication and how you just need to clean that up. Maybe some questions that need to be asked. Maybe growth conversations. That way as a team, you're able to kind of engage and feel out some of the rough things that kind of don't get you to gel together. Again, like I mentioned before, the frontline and leadership training is something that I'm very, very passionate about, because again, when you state facts, you're genuine and you're true, people tend to listen. They take it for what it's worth. There are times that I remember and I just observe body language. And there are several people who sometimes aren't as self-aware of themselves as they could be. And because I am that individual that reads that body language that tells you, hey, I don't think you're stuck up if you just walk around like this all day. I mean, I'm not saying that you're stuck up because I know you, but the way you're carrying yourself is kind of stuck up-ish, if that makes sense. So stop walking around here like that, or they're gonna think this. You know, I am a passionate, fun individual who feels that when you are able to bring all of this energy and push it into people to make sure that they understand that they hold themselves accountable for what they're bringing and what they're putting out, that it is just a way to grow. And it's a way to feel like work is your passion. All right? You couldn't imagine yourself doing anything else. Why would I? They understand me here. All right? So, again, thank you all so very, very much.
Awesome.